The person who invented the most crucial detail of blue jeans died as a hired worker. His name was Jacob Davis, a tailor from Reno, Nevada. The name you know, Levi Strauss, belonged to the merchant who financed his idea. One created the technology, the other built an empire upon it and immortalized his name. This investigation is not just about jeans. It's an autopsy of the mechanism by which a brilliant but impoverished idea transforms into a global brand, leaving its creator in the shadows. In 1872, Davis sent Strauss a fateful letter. This paradox is no accident. It is the key to a business strategy that made Levi's invincible for decades. This story raises two questions. First, how did rough work pants, the attire of prospectors and the lower class, manage to transcend their origins and become the ultimate symbol of rebellion and freedom worldwide? The answer to this question lies in the cultural code, which we will decipher in Section 7. And second, a more specific question. For what reason did a simple decorative stitch on the back pocket, which had no practical function, become one of the oldest and most protected trademarks in the world, litigated for decades? It has been in use since 1873, longer than the automobile, the telephone, or the electric light bulb. The secret to this branding weapon awaits us in Section 6. After watching this video, you will never look at your jeans the same way again. What was once just clothing will become a readable artifact for you. You will learn to understand why they are blue, what the small copper rivet signifies, the meaning behind the double stitching, and why the number 501 became a legend. You will learn to read 5 key details sewn into every pair of jeans. You will understand the code by which they live and why this code proved to be a universal language for the entire world, from cowboys to rock stars and presidents. Here is the map of our investigation. In approximately 4 minutes, we will dissect the ingenious weakness. You will learn how constantly tearing pockets led to an invention that gave Levi's a nearly 20-year monopoly in the market. From 1873 to 1890, during this time, 4 U.S. presidents took office. In about 10 minutes, we will uncover the mystery of the most famous number in the fashion world. You will understand how a random fabric lot number, 501, became a global code understandable without translation. And in approximately 18 minutes, we will show how Hollywood and the rebels of the 50s hijacked jeans from workers, transforming them into a uniform of protest that was officially banned in American schools. It all began in the epicenter of the gold rush, in the 1850s. And here lies the first paradox. In a place where everyone was obsessed with finding gold, the most scarce and valuable commodity turned out to be ordinary work pants. Levi Strauss, a Bavarian immigrant, arrived in San Francisco not for gold. He came to sell dry goods and coarse canvas for tents and wagons. His business plan had nothing to do with clothing, but reality dictated its own rules. Prospectors complained that their cotton pants turned into rags within a week. Ordinary pants wore out like a candle. Friction against rocks and moisture burned them to nothing. Strauss's decision to sew pants from tent canvas was not a stroke of genius, but an act of business desperation. And this unparalleled fabric strength revealed a fatal weakness in the overall construction in one specific area. The most uncomfortable, stiff, and skin-chafing fabric became an absolute bestseller. People were willing to tolerate discomfort for one quality: durability. Pants during the gold rush were consumables, like food or ammunition. A prospector might spend up to 25% of his meager earnings on buying them. A pair of pants cost up to $5, while daily income rarely exceeded $1 or $2. Durability was a matter of economic survival, and Strauss's pants solved this problem. The first proto-jeans were not blue, but dirty brown or beige, like tents. They were ugly but functional. And this functionality gave rise to the next problem. The fabric itself was eternal, but what stitched it together was not. Workers received nearly indestructible pants, but they had one design flaw that rendered them useless. Prospectors stuffed their pockets with heavy rock samples, tools, and, if lucky, gold nuggets. A weight of 2 to 3 kilograms per pocket was the norm. Pockets were the primary working tool. But reality hit hard. It wasn't the pocket fabric that tore, but the threads that attached it to the pant leg. Under constant strain, the threads at the corners of the pocket snapped, and the pocket detached. The pants, though otherwise intact, lost their main function. The entire workwear industry had reached a technological dead end, and the key to the solution lay not in tailoring, but in a completely different field, working with horse harnesses. So, the journey was made. From a shortage of durable clothing to the creation of canvas pants, which solved one problem but created another, an ingenious weakness. The pants were strong, but their pockets were not. This was a technological barrier that even Levi Strauss couldn't overcome. The problem required not an improvement, but an invention, and its solution would not just save pants. It would give birth to the most famous, iconic detail in clothing history and lead to a union of two men that would change the world of fashion forever. In Reno, Nevada, the wife of a local lumberjack walked into tailor Jacob Davis's workshop. Her complaint was painfully familiar. Her husband's pant pockets had torn off again. But this time, something clicked. Davis looked at the tools in his workshop and saw the copper rivets he used to fasten straps to horse blankets. In his mind, two incompatible technologies connected, saddlery and garment making. He took a hammer, and for the first time in history, placed metal rivets on the corners of pockets. And at that very moment he realized this was not a repair. This was an invention. He needed to patent it immediately, but the patent fee was $68, the equivalent of $1,700 today. The poor tailor didn't have that kind of money. His idea was brilliant but defenseless. Why did a tiny rivet work where the strongest threads failed? The physics of the process are elementary. Thread concentrates all tensile stress at a single puncture point. A rivet, by clamping two layers of fabric, distributes the same force across its entire area. A thread is a nail holding a picture. A rivet is an anchor bolt that transfers the load to the entire wall. Tests would show that riveted pockets withstood 5 to 7 times greater load. This was a fundamental technological superiority. Davis began placing rivets not only on pockets but also at the base of the fly, another vulnerable spot. This detail would become iconic, but it would later be abandoned for a very painful reason related to cowboys and hot metal near a campfire. Time passed, and there was no money for a patent. Competitors were already eyeing his method. In desperation, Davis remembered his supplier of sturdy fabric, the San Francisco merchant Levi Strauss. On July 2, 1872, he sent him a letter. It was a step of enormous risk. He fully disclosed his idea to a man who could simply steal it and patent it in his own name. Davis proposed a deal. Strauss pays the $68 for the patent, and they split the rights to the invention 50-50. Levi Strauss, being a brilliant businessman, saw in the letter not just a way to strengthen pants. He saw a legally protected product that would allow him to destroy all competitors and seize the market. His response changed everything. The alliance was forged. A client's desperation led to a tailor's epiphany. A financial dead end prompted a risky letter. And a merchant's shrewdness transformed an idea into a business plan. The two key elements of future jeans, durable fabric and indestructible rivets, finally converged. But their agreement was worthless without legal armor. They faced a race against time to obtain patent number 139121. This document would become not just a piece of paper, but a weapon that would give Levi's a nearly 20-year monopoly. May 20th, 1873. On this day, a document was registered with the U.S. Patent Office that is considered the official birth date of blue jeans. Its number, 139,121. Applicants, Jacob Davis and Levi Strauss. Subject, improvement in fastening pocket openings. The wording sounds modest, almost insignificant. But behind this modesty lay a legal mechanism of absolute power. This patent gave Levi's the exclusive monopolistic right to manufacture and sell riveted clothing throughout the United States. And this right was valid until 1890. Nearly 20 years of total dominance. The patent transformed Levi's from one among many into an unassailable monopolist. But this created a new challenge. How to build a brand strong enough in those years to survive after competitors gained access to the technology? How did this monopoly work in practice? Did no one dare to copy such a simple and brilliant idea as the rivet for 2 decades? Levi Strauss & Company acted aggressively. A legal department was established to monitor the market and immediately sue any company that used rivets or even similar metal fasteners. Future giants, Lee and Wrangler, were forced to invent workarounds. They used reinforced cross-stitching and multi-layered fabric inserts in the corners of pockets. None of these solutions could compare with the effectiveness and simplicity of the Rivet. This 20-year head start allowed Levi's to do more than just sell pants. It gave them time to build a myth. It was during this period that the famous leather patch with two horses trying to tear the jeans appeared. This was a visual symbol of their patent. Invulnerability. The patent worked like a dam on a river. Levi's controlled the entire flow while competitors dug small bypass channels. But what became of the second name on the patent? Did Jacob Davis become a wealthy and famous partner in the empire he helped create? The reality was more prosaic. Davis moved to San Francisco and took the position of head of the production department at the new Levi's factory. He personally oversaw the quality of products created using his own technology. However, despite his key role and name on the patent, he was never a co-owner of the company. He remained a salaried manager until the end of his life. He received a good salary, but no share in the multi-million-dollar profits generated by his idea. The brilliant inventor became an executor. The shrewd businessman became the owner of an empire. Jacob Davis died in 1908, having worked at the Levi's factory for 35 years as an employee. This division of roles predetermined their legacy. By the 1880s, the foundation was laid. Levi's was a monopolist with legally protected technology and streamlined production under the inventor himself. But the product was still imperfect. To become truly mainstream, the pants lacked two things: comfort and aesthetics. Tent canvas was too stiff, and its dirty brown color was purely utilitarian. The solution to both problems came from across the ocean, from France, from the city of Nîmes. That's where a new fabric began to arrive, softer, stronger, and dyed a deep blue with indigo dye. This fabric would forever change the appearance, feel, and very name of the product. So, why are jeans blue? The choice seems obvious, but it's completely illogical. For workwear, black or gray would be much more practical. The answer lies in the fabric that came from the French city of Nîmes. Its name, serge de Nîmes, was quickly shortened by Americans to one word: denim. It was softer and more elastic than canvas, but its main secret was the dye. Unlike other pigments, indigo molecules do not penetrate cotton fibers. They only cling to their surface. Indigo dye works like a tan. It doesn't change the skin's structure but sits on top and fades over time, creating a unique pattern. Because of this, jeans began to age beautifully. In areas of friction, the dye would wear off, exposing the white cotton and creating a unique pattern. Utilitarian clothing, for the first time, became a personal artifact. It was this new fabric that gave birth to the most famous number in the fashion world. The number 501 was not the result of marketers' work. It was an internal SKU used in the Levi's warehouse to designate the best batch of denim from the Amaskayig mill, a purely technical code for accounting. But this number, not intended for the public, began to leak into catalogs. Customers, wanting the very best pants, started asking for the 500 series model in stores. Thus, a random lot number transformed into a powerful brand within a brand, a synonym for quality and authenticity. And it was this fabric weave that gave rise to another detail you see on your jeans but don't know its origin. Look at the inside of your jeans. It is always lighter than the outside. This is not an accident, but the result of a technology born from economy. Dyeing all threads in indigo vats was an expensive process. To make it cheaper, only the longitudinal threads, known as the warp, were dyed. The transverse threads, the weft, were left undyed, white. In denim's twill weave, the blue warp threads intertwine with the white weft threads. As a result, blue fibers predominate on the face, while white fibers, which lie against the body, predominate on the reverse. This solved two problems. It saved expensive dye and made the fabric softer and more comfortable. By 1890, the product was ready. Comfortable and durable blue denim, reinforced with copper rivets, with the iconic 501 number. Jeans had become the ideal workwear, but in the same year, patent number 139,121 expired. The copper rivet technology became public domain. Dozens of competitors, future giants Lee and Wrangler, were ready to release their versions of the pants. How could Levi's protect itself when its main technological advantage was no longer unique? They began to add details that served no function other than to be a symbol. The battle for durability was over. The battle for recognition was beginning. In this battle, the first weapon was a detail that seems absurd, the double arc stitch on the back pocket. It has been used since 1873. Why spend thread and time on a pure decoration on pants where every detail screamed functionality? Logic suggests it was another reinforcement, a signature stitch that helped hold the pocket. But the reality turned out to be far more dramatic. On May 20th, 1890, the patent expired. The market was flooded with clones, copying everything: the cut, the fabric, the rivets. In this war, the only element that could not be legally copied was that useless arc. Levi's had prudently registered it as a trademark. The decorative stitch became a legal shield, but for a quick victory on store shelves, this was not enough. The arcuate was good for court, but invisible in a stack of folded jeans. How to make the product instantly recognizable? The solution, which changed everything, was a couple of centimeters in size. In 1936, sales manager Chris Lusek proposed a brilliant trick, sewing a bright red tab with the word Levi's embroidered on it into the side seam of the back pocket. It was simply a visual hook so that salespeople and customers could instantly find their product in a tall stack. However, this utilitarian element began to live a life of its own. It transformed from a trademarker into a cultural symbol of authenticity. The proof? It was the red tab, not the cut or the rivets, that became the most counterfeited element of jeans in the world. The company accidentally created a fetish, a mark of quality. An instruction for buyers was born: look for the red tab. But the strangest part of its history was yet to come, when the company began to deliberately release it without its name. Have you ever seen Levi's jeans where only a small is embroidered on the red tab instead of the name? The first thought, a fake. And this thought is absolutely logical. Why would a brand that has invested millions in name recognition release a flawed product? It seems absurd. Reality hit hard with its legal sophistication. To protect not the word, but the very idea of the red tab in that specific location, Levi's registered it as a trademark, even without the inscription. And by law, to maintain rights to such a mark, they are obliged to produce approximately 1 out of 10 pairs in this form. This was proof of their rights to the design itself. Thus, legal casuistry gave rise to a cultural phenomenon. Jeans with a blank tab became a rare collector's item. Now the product was perfect. It now had a durable denim body, an unyielding skeleton of copper rivets, and finally, a unique, legally protected face in the form of the arcuate and the red tab. Jeans were the ideal solution for their purpose, to be workwear. But their creators could not have imagined what awaited their invention. They designed a tool, and the world saw a symbol in it. They created a uniform for prospectors, but it was appropriated by those who had never held a pickaxe: rebels, dreamers, and rock stars. This is the story of a great cultural appropriation. The code of jeans had been cracked. We will now see 3 waves of this appropriation, each of which forever changed what simple blue pants were. The first wave of appropriation began in the 30s, and its weapon was cinema. How did pants born in the dirt of California mines suddenly become a uniform for heroes of the boundless prairies with whom they were historically unrelated? Hollywood created the myth. John Wayne and Gary Cooper on screen were inseparable from their Levi's. For millions of viewers on the urban East Coast, this image became a window into the world of the Wild West, a synonym for masculinity. But historical reality shatters this picture. Real cowboys of the 19th century wore heavy wool trousers or leather chaps. Hollywood deliberately chose jeans as a simple and understandable costume for its heroes, ignoring the facts. Jeans, for the first time, ceased to be clothing and became a role that could be adopted. City dwellers bought them at tourist ranches to feel part of the great myth for the weekend. But this romantic appropriation was merely a prelude. The next wave of appropriation proved to be far more destructive. The second wave hit in the 50s. Why did clothing, which just 20 years prior was associated with the hard-working hero, become so dangerous that it was officially banned in American schools? The catalysts were new icons: Marlon Brando in The Wild One and James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. Their uniform, Levi's 501 jeans, a t-shirt, and a leather jacket. This image became contagious for youth seeking their identity. For the post-war generation, tired of adult conservatism, jeans became a visual manifesto. By wearing them, a teenager declared their disagreement. The system's reaction was immediate. School boards across America imposed bans on wearing jeans, seeing them as a threat to discipline. This turned them into forbidden fruit. A complete change of code occurred. The symbol of the American dream became a symbol of rejecting that dream. This was a rebellion of individuals. But the real revolution happened when entire armies wore jeans. The third, final wave swept the world in the 60s. How did the uniform of the lone rebel, symbolizing alienation, become the uniform of the mass hippie movement, which preached community and love? Footage from Woodstock and anti-war demonstrations shows jeans everywhere. But this was not just fashion. Unlike the rebels of the 50s, who wore jeans as they were, hippies began to customize them. They ripped them, embroidered flowers on them, painted them, inserted bell-bottom wedges. Jeans ceased to be just clothing and became a canvas, a way to express individuality within a collective culture. It was this wave that made them a global phenomenon. They became a coveted dream for youth behind the Iron Curtain, including in the USSR, where a pair of jeans was not just a fashionable item, but a breath of freedom. We have answered the main question of the investigation. Now it's time to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. We have just witnessed 3 acts of great appropriation. Hollywood cowboys gave jeans a myth. The rebels of the 50s imbued them with protest. The hippies of the 70s transformed them into a canvas for self-expression. Jeans are a unique example of how an item becomes greater than itself. Their value is determined not by the strength of the fabric or the number of rivets, but by the cultural codes embedded within them. Levi's created the body, but culture created the soul. This is the secret to their enduring popularity. Now that we know the whole story, from practical necessity to cultural explosion, it's time to gather all the elements of our arsenal and understand how this incredible chain of events created a global language that we all speak. The story of jeans is not a straightforward path to success, but a perfect storm of coincidences, needs, and insights. Let's trace this chain from the very beginning. Without the harsh conditions of the Californian gold rush, the very need for super durable clothing would not have arisen. This gave rise to the first element of our arsenal, canvas instead of pants. But this coarse material revealed the fatal weakness of tearing pockets, turning durable pants into useless ones. This problem, in turn, led to Jacob Davis's brilliant insight and the birth of the second element, the copper rivet, which fixed the ingenious weakness. Necessity gave birth to innovation. But how did one brilliant idea turn into an entire industry? Davis's idea would have remained a local repair without Levi Strauss's business acumen. This gave rise to the third element, the patent for monopoly. This legal weapon gave the company a nearly 20-year head start to establish itself in the market completely alone. During this time, coarse canvas was replaced by soft and beautiful blue serge from Nîmes, giving us the fourth element, the magic of indigo. It prepared jeans to move beyond the work environment. And when patent protection expired, the company created new armor from the fifth element, the devil in the details. The arcuate and the red tab transformed the product into a recognizable brand. By the middle of the century, it was technologically perfect. But this was not enough. Everything we've listed, durability, the patent, branding, created the body of jeans, but not their soul. For that, the last intangible element of the arsenal was needed, the appropriation of the symbol. It was Hollywood, the rebels of the 50s, and the hippies of the 70s who cracked the utilitarian code of jeans and inscribed universal values into them: freedom, nonconformity, and self-expression. This cultural capital proved more valuable than any technology or patent. And therein lies the main paradox. Jacob Davis, who invented the rivet, died a hired worker, while his idea created a cultural phenomenon worth billions. And what story or image associated with jeans first comes to your mind? We have traced the entire journey from tent fabric to a global symbol. But the main question remains open. What lies behind this incredible success, cold calculation and the genius of its creators, or blind chance and uncontrollable cultural whirlwinds. On one hand, well-thought-out business decisions, patent, branding, timely improvements. On the other, Hollywood, rock and roll, Woodstock, events the company did not create, but merely observed. Now, the verdict is yours. If you believe that jeans are a triumph of well-planned business decisions, write one word in the comments, genius. If you think it is primarily the result of fortunate cultural circumstances, write coincidence. Let's see what verdict our community delivers.